Hey, what is going on? Alright, it is time for third and one. That's right. Sorry for the little bit late beginning, but man, my computer for one was running really, really slow. You ever have those days where your computer imitates you and you're just moving really slow? Yeah, it's one of those days. But alright, it's alright. It's all good. I'm glad to be with you this morning. Going to be talking some Thunder. Of course, Thunder play the Spurs, then they play, and that's tonight, by the way. So if you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do tonight, Thunder versus Spurs. Yeah, Thunder versus Spurs. And then you got Thunder versus Pelicans on Sunday evening as well. And man, both those will be pretty good matchups, especially tonight. Spurs without Kawhi Leonard, without Tony Parker, but they've still been winning. I believe they are 9-6 at this point in the season. So it'll still be a good match. It'll be a good test to kind of see where this team is at. They beat the Bulls on Wednesday, and it was a really ho-hum game. Really, they beat them in the first quarter, and that was it. But it was an incredible first quarter. It was either 25 or, 27-7. And man, that is a beatdown. That was a beatdown in that first quarter. It was bad for the Bulls. But then the rest of the game, really after the first half, Oklahoma City kind of just cruised. They kind of just laid back and just rolled through. I'm not sure 100% how I feel about that, but overall, I get it. It doesn't super bother me. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens, especially tonight. Even though it's against an incomplete Spurs team, they still have LaMarcus Aldridge. They still have people like Danny Green. You've also got their newer point guard Murray, I believe. But regardless, it is a tough team, especially because it's coached by Greg Popovich. Great coach. He continues to win with guys you've never heard of, and guys who may not even be big players after they're done with the Spurs. So, anyways, it's going to be an interesting game, though. It'll be exciting to watch. The Pelicans game, I think everyone continues to say, oh, they got Boogie. They got Boogie Cousins, DeMarcus Cousins. And then they also got Anthony Davis. They got all these other players. Let's do this. We're gonna look at their schedule and their record more so. So give me just a second. Let's see here. Let's see what the record is. They're 8-7, third in Southwest. They're just a game better than the Thunder right now. So they're doing okay. Doing alright. I think this will continue to be a team that sits around 500. Maybe gets a few games over 500. I just think that DeMarcus Cousins continues to show that while he is a very talented big man, very talented, he is so much of a head case and inconsistent that it's not worth having him on your team. Bottom line. He is one of the most talented bigs in the NBA, but he continues to not be the best big in the NBA because he's not consistent, and he's a head case. If we were to look at DeMarcus Cousins' stats, which we're going to do right now, there we are. Perfect. Okay. DeMarcus Cousins. This season, he is averaging 28 points per game. It's a good point average. He is also averaging 37 and a half minutes per game. It's really high for him. He's averaging .472 field goal percentage. So basically 47%. Oh, his 3-point percentage, 35.1%. Hey, props. Free throw percentage, 77.7. Averaging 13.7 rebounds per game. 5.7 assists per game. 1.6 blocks per game. 1.8 steals per game. I'm eating my words as I talk. His turnovers per game, 5.4. But man, he's kind of playing an all-around game at this point. All-around game. Well, props to the guy. He's playing really well this year. I still just think his history has shown he's too inconsistent to rely on. The Kings had him for a lot of years. Now, granted, it was with the Kings. But I think what the Kings are showing right now, man, I don't think he's going to be a winner. I think you can't rely on him. But we'll see. Maybe he changes that. If he changes that for his career, I'd be happy for him. I really would be. And so I hope he does. But I just don't think he's enough of a winner. I really, really don't. Some other things here. Let's see. So the Thunder are going to be playing the Pelicans on Sunday night. We'll see if this team can get to 2 games over 500 in that one. That would be really good. We'll see, though. We'll really, really see. Not super confident that they're going to win both those games, but we'll see. It would be really exciting if they do. Really, really exciting. So I think for the Thunder, if I'm going to give a Thunder forecast, we used to do a Thunder forecast on the show. I think we'll try to bring it back. For the Thunder, Spurs, I think they'll be up for it. I think they'll actually win that game. And everything I just said about the Pelicans, all that being given, I think that they could lose to them. I just feel like that's kind of one of those games. It'll be right after the Spurs, and I think that they will beat the Spurs. They will have been up for the Spurs. I'm not 100% if everyone will be up for the Pelicans, although they should be. At least to a degree. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Because we're talking about a very talented Pelicans team that can beat a lot of people on a lot of different nights, doing different things. It's really, really interesting. It'll be really interesting to see what happens there. I'll be interested to see if the Pelicans can even make it. If they can make it to the playoffs. I think it'll be good. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be a ton of fun. You get Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins into the playoffs. It will not be short of exciting. There's no doubt about that. We'll see what happens, though. I think one of the other things that's going to be interesting to kind of keep an eye on, the Boston Celtics. I believe they're at 14 straight after last night's 17-point comeback against the Warriors. Yeah, you heard that right. 17-point comeback against the Warriors. Yeah, incredible. I would not have I would not have bet money on that. For one, I wouldn't have bet that the Boston Celtics would win. I know that they've been hot lately. That's awesome. But I would not have bet them to win. The Warriors have been hot recently too. But let's dive into these stats just a little bit, because this was a very, very interesting game in my opinion. Pulling it all up. Give me just a second. There we go. All right. So in the first quarter, Warriors 28-18. Second quarter, they gave up a little bit of their lead, so the Celtics cut it to 5 because they won the quarter 24-19. But then the Warriors at some point in the second half go up by 17 points. And the Celtics come roaring back. Roaring back. Or maybe it was actually in the first half. Regardless, the Celtics are legit. And they don't have Gordon Hayward. Yeah. No Gordon Hayward. A premier scorer, a premier player in the NBA. This team is looking more and more scary. Jaylen Brown looking good. He led them in points last night, 22, 7 rebounds. Al Horford continues to be the utility guy, 18 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists. And Kyrie Irving, 16, 5, and 6 assists. It's incredible. They held Stephen Curry to 9 points. 9. Now Durant came out with 24, 3, and 3. Draymond had 11 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. But man. So I don't know if you're the Celtics, if you're encouraged or discouraged though. Steph Curry only had 9 points and you barely won. Or do you come out of this and you say, we defended Steph Curry really well. I'm sorry, even if you don't like the guy, Steph Curry is one of those guys that no matter how well you guard him, a lot of times he will hit shots in your face. Same thing for Klay Thompson. Just ask the Thunder of a couple of years ago. Shot after shot after shot after shot after shot in their faces. It was ridiculous. Ridiculous. But we'll see. We'll see how this season goes. Steph Curry tried to make a prediction of sorts. He said, very, very likely that he'll be back in Boston in June. Steph Curry, really? Just shut your mouth. Just play. Just play. Everyone knows that you're the favorite. Everyone gets it. Why do you have to keep boasting it? My goodness. Just play. Just play. That's all we're asking. Just play. But man, they are good. But they got beat last night. And that goes to show everyone else, they are still human. They can be beat. It is possible. We'll see, though. We'll see what happens with the rest of the year. I'm very intrigued. Very intrigued. Because it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. We are going to roll to a quick break. And then when we come back, we will we'll talk some OU, talk the college football rankings. We will talk OSU. Man, we're just going to dive into a whole bunch of NCAA football talk. We'll give some picks. There are actually some decently exciting games I'm going to call them, see, what kind of games would I call them? Because there's not really but like one or two, but where both two teams are ranked playing one another. But there are some other ones that have potential. They're potential really good games and potential trap games for some good teams. So we'll go over those here in just a minute, right when we get back from these messages. All right, YouTube. Sorry about that. We are in a break, so bear with me real quick, and then we will be right back to talk some sports. Send in your comments, send in your questions. We'd really love to know what all of you are thinking out there. That way, we can talk, because I definitely love talking any kind of sports to you guys. So definitely let me know what your thoughts are. As far as the Thunder, though, I'm gonna be really interested to see what happens out of this stretch of 3 games where they play the Spurs, the Pelicans, and then the Warriors next Wednesday. It's gonna be incredible. It's gonna be an incredible view, especially on Wednesday when you're playing the Warriors. If they're at full strength, that's going to be a good test. It's going to be at home. That's going to be to OKC's benefit, but they better get it clicking. So I want to see what happens tonight. I want to see what happens on Sunday, because I want to see them click. We haven't really seen the full force, I don't feel like, for an entire game. We haven't seen them all 3 of the bigs, as well as some of the other guys, click. We'll see. We're about to come out of the break. Hang tight with me. All right, we are back talking some sports on Crossover Radio. That's right, this is 3rd&1 live on Crossover Radio. 3rd&1, talking about sports. Ultimately, want to point to God, but on the radio station that is radio with purpose. I was going to say 3rd&1 sports with a purpose on Crossover Radio, radio with purpose. We got to come up with a better tagline. Help me come up with a better tagline. If you're listening right now, help me come up with a better tagline for 3rd&1. I'm going to open this up to the people. Yeah, that's right, to the people. Let me know your thoughts. So we were just talking the Thunder a lot, and I know that the next couple of games are really going to tell us a lot about this team, about who they are, and really prep us for what to expect out of the Warriors game. But man, I think that this team, we haven't really seen them click, all 3 bigs, but I think that as soon as we start facing some better competition, we'll see some of their better basketball. I really do. I think that the team right now has some good vibes going on. That after the 4-game losing streak, they now have a 3-game winning streak, and I think that that they're going to be playing a lot better. I think they just had a really funky dry spell, and in those kind of situations, it kind of just continues to snowball downward until everyone gets on the same page. Everyone kind of gets to air out stuff. You get a break a little bit, and that's what happened. That's what happened. So it's been encouraging to at least see them win in different ways. Wednesday was definitely more about defense than offense. But they played pretty well. Oh man, tired people. tiring. They definitely played better than probably the score suggested, at least on defense. But on offense, it was bad. And in fact, Donovan came out. He kind of criticized them. He's like, I'm really concerned. They had one assist in the whole third quarter. It's bad. They can't do that. Jeremy Grant continues to be this really big bright spot for the team. He played well. He got to play against his brother in front of his dad and his uncle, I believe, both. Harvey and Horace, who both played in the NBA. Harvey actually played for the Sooners, for all of you who are curious. So there's definitely an Oklahoma tie there. But man, Jeremy Grant has been playing really well. He's been playing really well. I think he's really developed. And if he only stays this way for the rest of his career, it'd be a really good career. But I think he is going to continue to get better. In fact, I think he could be their answer for the 4 position if Carmelo decides to go. I really do. I think that's part of their long-term goal. Because I think that Jeremy is showing right now he could be a starter. And I think with what he gives you, he actually gives you a really good complement to George and Westbrook. I think this team is more predicated on wanting to keep George than Anthony. Now, I know it sounds probably like an obvious statement, but George, for one, is younger, much younger. So everyone's like, well, of course I want to keep George. But I just feel like his play style jives with Westbrook so well. I think with Anthony, it is a struggle right now getting him to fit. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I really hope he does, because I think he is a tremendous talent. I think that he does want to win, and I think that's something really important to him. And I think his goals and his desires have developed over time. I really do. He cares a lot about where he lives. I don't think it's as much about money. I think he wants to make as much money as he can. Everyone does, ultimately, in most situations. They want to make as much money as they can in the current situation they are in. But I think that there are some other things that are affecting him now. His family. He probably does want to win a championship. This dude's been a winner before. And I think he wants to win. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Alright, so enough NBA talk. Let's jump into some NCAA football talk. Because there are some trap games out there this week, and I kind of want to talk about those, put them on your radar. That way, if you're looking for a game to watch, maybe if you want to watch a couple of these, they could be pretty good. But we're going to see what is happening in the realm of college football. So starting off, in fact, what we'll do, we'll look at just the top 25. At this point in the season, that's about all I care about, for most of the part. You have number 1 Alabama playing Mercer this week. You've got number 2 Clemson playing Citadel. Boring. I think both of them will smash both those teams. It's not like both those teams are terrible as far as Mercer and Citadel, but they're 5-5, and they're not anywhere close to the same kind of 5-5 as you find in one of the Power 5 conferences. Talking about SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac 12. So we'll see. We'll see what happens out of that. But I think that Clemson and Alabama run away. Miami, number 3, playing Virginia, who is 6-4. That to me is a sneaky good game. Sneaky good game. We'll see what happens. It's a 12 o'clock Eastern tip, so 11 o'clock local. Oklahoma playing Kansas. That's going to be pretty much just a runaway, I think. 9-1 Oklahoma versus 1-9 Kansas. I don't want to say nothing's possible, because I think we've seen this Oklahoma team underperform at times. But they should stomp Kansas. I've been hearing that Kansas has been playing better as of late. Let's look at what some of their past, at least the past 3, maybe past 5 games, to see what their overall losses have looked like. So give me just a second. They haven't won since the very first week of the season, which was against Southeast Missouri State. Let's see here. So last week against Texas, they lost 42-27. Against Baylor, they lost 38-9. In Kansas State, they lost 30-20. The 2 games before that, they didn't even score. They got shut out against TCU and Iowa State. So let's talk about this then. TCU and Iowa State shut out Kansas. I would hope Oklahoma is going to hold them to under 20 points. If they don't, that's very upsetting. Very, very upsetting. But I hope that they're going to shut them down to hold them under 20 points. If they do that, I'll be happy. Here's the bottom line. I'm not 100% sure on what the Kansas teams look like, or Kansas team look like against Iowa State and TCU. I'm not sure if they were missing people, if they just weren't clicking. They were having a really, really bad time. And so it's going to be really, it's kind of really difficult to compare. But in the last 3 games, they've put up points against Kansas State, Baylor, and Texas. Texas, who has a really good defense. Everyone pretty much respects Texas' defense right now. But they still scored, KU did, 27 points on them. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. I hope that OU is able to really pull out a really big win, keep them under 20 points. Oh, let's say it this way: keep them at 21 points or under, 3 touchdowns or less. Which sounds crazy, but that's today's Big 12. In fact, I want to do something too. Hold on. We're gonna look at the SEC. SEC football. All right. We're going to look at some games. Because everyone wants to talk about SEC this, SEC that. All right. Perfect. Yeah, this is what we're looking for. Okay. Let's start with Alabama. Oh man. Actually give me the schedule. There we go. Perfect. In fact, I'll do you one even better. Here we go. So everyone wants to talk about OU and Big 12. They don't play any defense. Granted, I'm not going to completely disagree with that. I'm really not. Although OU showed some really good things last week. And they've showed good things a couple of different times. Texas Tech, after the first quarter, really good defense. Ohio State, really good defense. So let's back off that train just a little bit. All right. Plus TCU was number 6 in the nation in total team defense last week, and they got stomped, and they got shut down. So everyone just calm down a little bit. All right, just calm down. So now this is interesting. Alabama, while they have not played an offense anywhere near to the level of like an Oklahoma State or Oklahoma, they have not allowed one team more than 24 points in a game. That's impressive. That's impressive. There's just no two ways about it. Let's look at some of the other scores, though. Some of these other teams. So Clemson, if we want to talk about what teams are allowing, Clemson at times, let's see here, they allowed 31 points one time, 24 points in the rest of the season. 27 points and 31 points. The rest of the season, they didn't allow a lot. Just, they play good defense. Your winning teams typically play really good defense. Really good. So, I mean, the bottom line is, with these teams and the way everything is going, I still think, though, that some of the SEC, the SEC itself gets touted. I don't think the SEC is that strong this year. Now, you have some teams in the SEC who are really strong. You've got Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, maybe LSU if you want to throw them in there. Maybe. But really, you've got about 4 teams. Out of how many? What is it? Was it up to 14? 16 teams? But in all seriousness, that is not an outstanding conference this year. Have they been before? Yeah. But we're talking really about 4 teams. Maybe. Mississippi State? Maybe. They played Alabama really tough, but they gave it up in the 4th quarter. But let's list off some of these other teams. Kentucky's pretty good. They're 7-3. I think that's another trap game against Georgia. We'll see what happens. But Kentucky, you've got Arkansas, Tennessee, Florida. Florida, who could lose to a UAB this week. Missouri, Vanderbilt, Mississippi, Texas A&M. It's not a great conference. Now, do you have some of the best teams in the nation in this conference? You sure do. But so does the ACC. In fact, it's got 2 of the top 4 teams. Clemson, Miami. Now, that's going to get settled out. But I'm just saying, SEC is not everything that they get lauded for in this year's NCAA football. Agree or disagree? Let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts on that. Let's look at some of these other top 25 games. So like I said, a couple of trap games, I think, potential trap games and surprise games. Miami. So again, Miami is playing against a 6-4 Virginia team. Now it's at home, so that may help them. You've also got Georgia at home against Kentucky, who is 7-3. I think that's another potential good game. It's a potential trap game for them. Potential good game. Notre Dame 8-2 versus a 6-3 Navy. I think that's another potential trap game and could be a really good game. You've also got Mississippi State versus Arkansas. Arkansas has been winning a lot lately, or at least winning more lately. Arkansas could wind up putting something together at home against Mississippi State. TCU, Texas Tech. If you're playing Texas Tech, you got a chance to lose because they can really light you up. Oklahoma State versus Kansas State. I don't think that is as much of a concern. I just don't. I don't want to disrespect Kansas State, none of that. I just don't think it's as much of a concern. 9-2 USC at home versus UCLA. Another potential good game that could be an upset game. And so these are some games that I feel like have potential to be really good and could provide some interesting things. You got number 18 Washington at home against Utah, 5-5. I think Washington runs away with that one, but they're not strong in particular, so they could lose. And then you've got Wake Forest at home versus NC State. Wake Forest 6-4, NC State 7-3. So NC State's on the road. That would be one of my upset ones to definitely keep an eye out for. But if I'm picking a game, we got to pick the Michigan-Wisconsin game. And by the way, Georgia versus Kentucky. I think Georgia wins, but not by a lot. But that is when I'd say, hey, upset alert. Same thing for Virginia at Miami. But this Michigan at Wisconsin, number 24 Michigan, 8-2 at number 5 Wisconsin, 10-0. We're starting to get to a point in the year where I know teams, it becomes more about can they handle the pressure. Do I think that Wisconsin is a better team than Michigan? Yes. Do I think that Wisconsin should win this? Yes. But Michigan has showed up big in big games. Wisconsin needs to show up in this game. Needs to show up. I'm going to say Wisconsin wins, but it's not going to be by a ton. It wouldn't surprise me if this score is like 24-21. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, as far as big-time football games, that's the only big-time football game. Not great. Not great this week. But we'll see what happens on the NCAA. Let's go ahead and wrap up and talk some NFL and fantasy football. Last night in the NFL, you had the Steelers playing the Titans. Steelers dominated the Titans. I believe it was 40-17 was the final score. Whew. That's a beatdown. Antonio Brown looked like the best receiver in the NFL. He had 3 touchdowns, 144 yards, I believe, receiving. And he caught one of the balls against his helmet. One of the touchdowns he caught against his helmet while he was running toward the back of the end zone. Yeah. Back corner. Yeah. It was incredible. It was incredible. It was a really, really great catch. But man, the Steelers show that they are one of the top 2 teams in the AFC, along with New England. Is anyone else going to challenge those 2 teams? I know people may say Kansas City, but they've fallen off. They started off really strong. They fell off. They've fallen off. The Raiders are not anything that people thought they would be, myself included. Is anyone in the AFC going to mount any kind of a challenge to the Steelers and Patriots? I feel bad for Houston. Houston had some things rolling with their rookie quarterback, Deshaun Watson. But I just can't think of any other team. The Jaguars are 6-3, I think, at this point. Okay. I don't see them winning against those teams. And then you've got in the NFC, it's just madness. Madness. Absolute madness. But the Seahawks might get in. Because you know what? The Rams are leading that division. The Rams. The Rams. The Rams are playing out of their mind. Jared Goff, second year, playing really well. Todd Gurley, playing pretty well for them this year. They just have a good team. They have a good team. The new coach there is doing really, really well. And then you've got, of course, like I said, the Seahawks. They'll probably get in through the wild card. They're a really good team. You've got the Philadelphia Eagles, who right now is the favorite in the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. They have probably the most complete team. Carson Wentz is looking like a star, a superstar, an all-star. He is incredible. And then you've got guys like Alshon Jeffrey playing pretty well for them. They've traded for Jay Ajayi from the Miami Dolphins. Now they have a consistent running attack. I mean, it's a really solid team. That is a good team, and their defense is really good. Minnesota Vikings also are going to be pushing for that. Minnesota Vikings are really good. Although I will say this, everyone talks about the Minnesota Vikings. Was anyone talking about the Vikings heavily before Aaron Rodgers went down? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I think that By the way, Aaron Rodgers was on the practice field this week. I don't think he's planning to be back until at least 2 more weeks. But if he gets back and they're in the hunt, which right now they're at 5-4, if he gets back and they're in the hunt, that could be very, very exciting football, which would be good because this year has been awful overall for competition for the NFL. It has been awful. The AFC has been terrible. Terrible. The NFC has given some life. A little bit. But man. The NFC has given some hope, but the AFC has been awful. Teams that should have at least been decent are bad, or you just don't want to watch them. But we'll see. The Lions are trying to push the Vikings in the north. We'll see what happens there. But the Eagles are kind of by themselves. Redskins are still good. Redskins are pretty consistent. Oh, and sorry, we didn't even mention the New Orleans Saints, who have been dominating as well. They only have 2 losses. And right now they are looking as good as any other team in the NFC to be able to survive for that spot. You've got legitimately 3, 4. You legitimately got 4 teams right now. Maybe 5 or 6. If you want to throw the Redskins in there, 6. But you've got legitimately 5 teams if you're throwing in the Seahawks, Rams, Vikings, the Eagles, and the Saints, which could win the NFC. And we aren't even talking about the Falcons, the reigning NFC champs. But man, it is. There's some pretty good football going on in the NFC. So, if you're curious and you're ever like, I just want to watch some football, and you want to watch some good football, and you don't have a dog in the fight, watch an NFC game. You'll probably enjoy that a lot more. For any fantasy football nerds out there, let me give you some advice this weekend. So there are some players you should probably be on the lookout for. Pulling them all up here. In fact, let me cue up some music. I'm going to give you your fantasy streak of the week. I'm going to give you as at least one player from every position that I think will help you or your team win if you have him. Guys to keep your eye out for. So I'm going to try to get guys at each position, at least on the main positions. Kicker and defense, I just don't care about. I'm not saying they aren't important, especially in fantasy football, but I just don't care about. So, yeah, they get the chopping block. But we'll see. We'll see if that is good advice or not. Let me see here. There's that. All right, perfect. Got some music here. All right, here we go. Let's do some fantasy picks of the week. At quarterback. You've got a few options. Tom Brady playing Oakland, 25th, who's 25th against opposing quarterbacks. Now, some of these numbers are based on our league that we're in, some of the guys at the station. But let's see here. 25th. Tom Brady could light them up easily. You've got Drew Brees playing against Washington, who's 22nd against quarterbacks. Drew Brees has been having a pretty good year. Not a great year by his standards, but a pretty good year. He's number 11 in amongst all quarterbacks. Carson Wentz playing the 19th ranked defense against quarterbacks in Dallas. Is this going to be at Dallas? I don't know if they're going to have Sean Lee. Talking about Dallas, I would take Carson Wentz. In fact, that's my lock. Carson Wentz, put it down. So there you go. 3 quarterbacks. You're welcome. Hopefully you have one of them. If we're talking about running backs, man, Kareem Hunt playing at the New York Giants, 19th, who is ranked 19th against running backs in fantasy. Man, that smells like disaster. Smells like disaster. Yeah, it's not probably going to be very good. Kareem Hunt, I would take, as well as you got guys like LaShawn McCoy, Buffalo, playing against the Chargers. Not a great defense. They are ranked number 30th in the league against running backs in fantasy. But also on the flip side of that, the Chargers, Melvin Gordon, playing against Buffalo, who's the 31st ranked defense against opposing running backs. So both those are really good picks as well, in my opinion. If you're looking at wide receivers, Antonio Brown last night, he did kill, and he was the top projected wide receiver, and he killed it. I mean, it was bad. He had, in our league, he had 40 points. Give me a break. Give me a break. And then you've got Des Bryant playing against Philadelphia, who's a 20th ranked defense against receivers. I don't like that one. I just don't. Julio Jones against Seattle. Again, don't like it. Number 18th ranked defense against wide receivers, but I just don't love it. Michael Thomas, even though the Redskins are number 12 against opposing wide receivers, tough defense. Michael Thomas would be one of my picks. I would probably also go with Alshon Jeffrey against the Dallas Cowboys, who's also 24th against receivers, and they're also not good against the quarterbacks. The defense is just not great, and with Sean Lee being out, they're not going to get as much pressure. I think Alshon Jeffrey could exploit that. Alshon Jeffrey would be one of my picks. Although he is a little bit injured, he's questionable for this week. We'll see what happens. But also DeAndre Hopkins, man, playing Arizona, the number 26th ranked defense against opposing wide receivers, man, that could be really bad. Sterling Shepard could be a sneaky play for the Giants against KC, who has not been doing well. KC is 32nd out of 32 teams against wide receivers. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But I think that Sterling Shepard could do well. I think Alshon Jeffrey, DeAndre Hopkins, and who would I list? Michael Thomas. Those would be ones that I would maybe look for. Mike Evans, Tampa Bay, against Miami. Whew. Miami. You just don't know what to expect from them. They're, I believe, 4-4 or 5-5. They're just inconsistent. So they could show up, they could not show up. I don't know. But their defense was number 16 against wide receivers. All right, tight ends. Tight ends. Rob Gronkowski, he's number 2 in the league this year in points for tight ends. I'm not surprised. Well, I'm a little bit surprised, actually, if I'm going to be honest. I'm a little bit surprised. But Rob Gronkowski, that's a good matchup against Oakland. 22nd ranked defense. Also, if you're looking at Travis Kelce, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs against the New York Giants. New York Giants are 32nd in the league. They're dead last against tight ends, allowing points. And Travis Kelce is number 1 in the league in points. So I think if you do the math, it's probably going to be a really good showing for Travis Kelce. You know, on the flip side of that, Evan Ingram could wind up showing something for the New York Giants against Kansas City, although Kansas City tends to defend tight ends pretty well. At least they don't allow a lot of points. So keep your eye out for that one. Keep your eye out for that one. Zach Ertz, Philadelphia for the tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles against Dallas. Dallas is 17th against tight ends, but again, keep your eyes out for that one. Let's see here. Anyone else that I would be super interested in? Man. Jason Witten against the Philadelphia Eagles. 25th ranked defense against tight ends. Allow quite a bit of points. Jason Witten, number 10 in the league in points. Give the man some credit. Jared Cook against the New England Patriots, number 20th in the league, number 20 in the league against opposing tight ends. Jared Cook, number 8 in the league in points this year. That could be a really good outing. So there you go. There's some picks there. If I'm going to do a flex, and as Dustin and I normally do, when we do a flex, we try to give you a really good, more of a value pick. A guy that isn't super high, isn't in the top 10 in his particular position, but you think could do really well. Sterling Shepard would be one of those guys. We talked about him already. But if I'm going to give you another one, man. This is interesting. Here we go. Kenyon Drake, Miami, running back. Playing against the 24th ranked defense of Tampa Bay. Kenyon Drake has taken over primary duties, although he does split time with Damian Williams after Jay Ajayi was traded to the Eagles. But he would be one I would say, hey, keep your eye out for, as well as, let's see here. Doug Martin. Although he's a starter, that's kind of cheating. I shouldn't do that. But it would be a really good pick. Maybe Michael Crabtree, wide receiver for Oakland. I know he's a starter. He is number 20 in the league this year. He would be one to definitely keep your eye out for too and start. So anyways, there you go. There's your fantasy football picks. And that actually will bring us to a wrap on today's show. Ultimately, I really hope that you have a great and blessed weekend. And if nothing else, please remember this. Ultimately, life is not about sports. So if your team wins or loses, so what? Enjoy it. Yeah, you may be a little bit upset about it, but you don't want your team to lose. But don't be upset. Don't be mad. Let it go. I see a lot of people who get wrapped up in sports so much that it's their life. That's a sad way to be. Because ultimately, life is about more than just sports. In fact, if that's what most of your life and mind is revolved around, you need to go spend some time with God. Maybe you haven't found Jesus before. Or more so, maybe you haven't submitted to Jesus as Lord and Savior. And if not, I would encourage you, seek Him. In fact, the Lord says, seek me while I may be found. Or at least it talks about that in Scripture, to seek the Lord while He may be found. Don't miss your opportunity. There will come a time when it's too late. If we're talking about sports analogies, there will come a time when the buzzer will end on this world. Now, unlike sports, we don't know what that time is. We're given signs to look for, things to keep our eyes out for the return of Christ, for the end of the world. But ultimately, we don't know what that time is. So I would encourage you, seek the Lord while He may be found. Don't let sports be everything in your life. In fact, it should probably be a very, very small part. We love talking about sports, spend a lot of time looking at sports or watching sports. But even, I mean, it's one of those things I gotta watch. Because otherwise, man, I'm gonna get way too wrapped up and not keep my eyes fixed on God. And that's sin. That's wrong. God is God. God is Lord. If you claim to be a Christian, God is supposed to be your Lord. And that is whom all of our purposes and intentions and ultimately our time should go to. That doesn't mean we don't work. That doesn't mean that we don't spend time with family. That doesn't mean any of that. What I'm saying though is God should have the priority in your life. He should be the priority. And other things flow out of that. So for instance, if you have a family, if you're serving God, you should serve your family. That's expected. Otherwise, you're not serving God. But it's just an example of what I mean. But ultimately, God has to be your priority. If you want to know Him and you don't know Him, you don't know Christ as Lord and Savior, let us know. Drop us a comment. You can also text us 405-494-0234. Either way, I would love to hear from you. And if nothing else, have a great weekend. Have a great weekend. And if you don't know the Lord, I hope you come to know the Lord. And if you do know the Lord, awesome. It has been a fun time talking with you about some sports this morning and about some theology, some scripture, if you will, more so. And we will be back live with you on Monday morning. Dustin and I, we will be talking about the weekend in sports, talking about the Thunder and how they did out of their 2-game road trip against Spurs and the Pelicans. So you'll want to catch that. You'll want to catch some of our commentary on the NCAA football weekend, as there may be some upsets there that could wind up brewing. So, anyways, until then, have a great weekend. May God bless you. May He keep you. May He make His face to shine upon you. All right. We're out. All right, YouTube, thank you so much for hanging on there for that little last bit. We are out from here as well. Have a good weekend.